Hello and welcome along to Adobe After Effects with your host Robert Smith. In this part 3 of creating a basic slideshow, we're going to actually put the slideshow together. So let's get stuck right in. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is add a bit of typography to a new composition. So to do that, I'll go to Composition, New, like this. And I'm going to actually name the composition up here. I'm going to call this Slides, like that. This is going to be the slide section of the video we're making. 1280, I'll press return, like that. Let's look at that again. Just 1280 by 720, 30 seconds, 25 frames per second, as usual. So, okay. Now I'm going to put some typography in. To do that, I'm going to click up here on the stage. But first of all, I'll select my type tool up there and click check and type in check like this. Now I know I want it in Fairview as my font, and I want it at about 624 points. So it's a pretty massive piece of type. It'll be shouting at us. Okay, there it is. Now what I want to do, I want to scale that up from very tiny. Now to do that, I would go down here and transform and play around with my scale numbers like this and add some keyframes. But you'll notice that it's scaling from the bottom left-hand corner, which is not what we want. So to fix that, we have to move this thing called the anchor point, this little target number here. Okay, to do that, I can use this tool up here, which is aptly called the pan behind or anchor point tool, or I can do it the classy way by just holding the Y key down and click and drag that up there into the middle, and now it'll scale from that point. Let's just check that out. Okay, just like this. Okay, Apple Z to back where we were. Now the anchor point's in the middle. I'm going to lock that layer because that type will get in the way. It's quite big. I'm going to go over here and in my character panel, I'm going to type in 124 point for the size. Go back up to my text tool and type in this out like that. Very nice indeed. And I'm going to put this about here. So let's get this to animating. What I want to happen is I'm going to zoom in on my timeline by dragging that yellow thing so I can get 1 second intervals. I'll go to about 1 second in time, like that. Hold the shift key down after unlocking that layer, hold the shift key down and press the letter S for scale. You notice I now have both my scale properties up like that. So now I can click here, like that. So it doesn't matter what happens before that, they'll come up to 100% and be there on the stage like that. So before that, I'm going to drag my current time indicator back to the start, and I'm going to select one of these and type in 0. Okay, now before I do that, I've actually made a mistake there, so I'll just go back. I've forgotten to actually change the anchor point on this out here, so I'm going to zoom in now. You'll do this all the time. This is when you're changing anchor points. So I'm going to hold the Y key down, grab the anchor point, and put it right in the middle. Okay, then Apple minus to come back out again. And now I'll start to animate. Now it's really important, you'll make that mistake like I always do, to do that. Set your anchor point first before you do any animation, because if you don't, you'll get very weird results. Okay, so let's get stuck in. I'm going to unlock that layer. I'm going to select both layers, put a keyframe there for scale. So it's going to look like that at 1 second. I'm going to drag to the left like this, and then I'm going to select one of those numbers and type in 0, and I'll get this, which is what I want. They're both coming from the center. Fantastic. That's exactly what I want. That's a bit long, so I'm going to move those keyframes to about 0.6 of a second like that. So it's pretty quick. They come at us pretty quickly like that. I'll also put a bit of ease on it, so I'll select those two keyframes, or all those keyframes, by dragging a marquee over the top and go to Animation, Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease In, which simply means they'll slow down marginally as they, rather than come at us all at the same speed, they just slow down gracefully at the end. Very nice indeed. Okay, let's add something called a bit of blurs, because when things are moving, they look a lot better if they've got what's called this blur thing. So to apply that, now make sure that your timeline looks like, or over here, your layers look like this. If it doesn't, you'll see a thing called toggle switches. It might, for example, look like that. Okay, Now if I click on this toggle switches, it goes back to that, so it toggles between those two layouts. Okay, now what I want to do is, on this layout here, I'm going to click this little icon here, this 3 thing like that. And what that should do, actually before I do that, I'm going to click up here. This is the icon I'm looking for. That's the just the column header. If I click up here, you'll see you have a whole lot of little icons here which do a whole lot of really crazy stuff inside After Effects. But if I click here first, like that, what that does, it turns on the blur effect. So any layer can now have a blur applied to it. Now I'm going to click on that layer, and you'll notice that it's on both layers because they're both selected. And if you watch it now, you see it's very subtle how it's blurry around the edge. But when you see it in real speed, it just gives it a nice reality. Okay, great. So I just clicked there and clicked here, and I've got a bit of blur here. I want them to stay there on the stage for about a second, about that much time. So I'm going to go over here and put a couple of keyframes. They're still both selected, so I get a keyframe over here, like that. Very nice. So it just stays there for a little while. Now to get rid of them, I want to actually use the position property to do that. So I'm going to navigate between my keyframes. I want to go from this keyframe to this one here. I just press the letter K, that will take me to that keyframe. If I want to go backwards, I'll press the letter J, like that. So I'll K to that keyframe there, like that. And I want it now, if I hold the Shift key down and press P, you'll see I get my position keyframe access now too. So I'm going to put a keyframe there in both those layers. Then I'm going to move along just a little bit like this and click down here to deselect the layers. And the this out one, I'm just going to move that actually on the first number. I'll move that to the right like that. I'm holding the Shift key down so the numbers change a lot quicker. And this one here, I'm going to move that to the left like that. That's the first number in position like that. And now I've got a keyframe. And this is what I've got. Okay, so I've got a lovely bit of typography happening there. And let's watch that in real time. That's exactly what I want. From that point on, the slides will start. Okay, in the next video, we'll add some slides to this. Thanks for watching.